Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Hi, doctor.
Hi, Bhavya, how are you? How's it going?
Good. Yeah, everything is good. How about you?
Good, good. It's still the start of the week.
Yep.
Why no one has the videos on? I see no one except me. Yeah, I see Satya.
Actually, it's distracting. So,
Oh, it's distracting for you.
This is Smita. Hi, Dr. Salini.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
And I see still people are joining. We'll just give a couple more minutes and we'll start. I think the number has settled down. We'll just go ahead and start our today's class. Let me know when you guys can see my screen. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, doctor.
Yes.
yeah, I can say it.
Okay, thank you. So today we are going to discuss about the topic literature surveillance, which we generally refer to as literature search, literature surveillance, literature review. These are all like similar terms when you heard something about literature in the drug safety or in the in the job descriptions, you will usually see that's the reason recently students are seeing a lot about literature review and literature surveillance words in the job descriptions. So just to kind of give you guys a little bit of awareness, what is this literature review? We are conducting this class. Basically, it's a self-learning module. There is nothing much you're going to get questions in the interviews or even if you go into the company, there is nothing much you're going to do as at this point of time. But just to give you guys some awareness for the interview purpose. We are just reviewing this topic. So today we are going to talk a little bit more about this literature search. What is its objective? How frequently we do this literature surveillance, and how the process of literature search happens, and who will do this literature reviews? What is the process? Who will set up this search criteria? And what we are going to do next with the literature search we have performed. So coming to the objective of the literature surveillance or the literature search, the main objective is to systematically monitor the active moiety for any new significant safety findings. So basically, to talk more about the active moiety here, we are not doing this literature search based on specific drug name or a trade name. In general, we do it on the active moiety or the active substance to find out if there is any more findings you can find, any new significant findings that you haven't encountered in the clinical trials or in your post-marketing surveillance. So this is a kind of additional search strategy that you do to find any new significant safety findings, that if it does have any of these safety findings have any impact on your benefit risk profile of the drug or the safety profile of the drug, and we call it also as, if it does have any impact on the public health. So basically, whatever you haven't noticed in the clinical trials, how we do is through the pharmacovigilance active monitoring process. That's how we do the literature review as well. It's nothing but type of source documents, you can say. So basically, you usually receive from either from the patient or the healthcare providers. In addition, you will review these source documents, which is literature reviews as well. Sometimes the companies will have a literature team set up, or sometimes if it's a smaller companies, they do internally. Like if you are working with the vendors, they will give you the case safety reports. How you do the ICSRs, the same way they will give you the literature review cases, and you perform the same way. So whenever you get the interview question, on what basis you do the literature search, you always have to say that we do literature search on the active substance or the active moiety of the product, which has that therapeutic activity. Like let's say acetaminophen. Acetaminophen may have so many formulations, like tablet, injection, or a powder. There might be so many formulations. It's irrespective of the formulations, we will do this literature search for all the formulations based on the active moiety and all routes of administration. It's not just tablet or a powder or a liquid. It's all routes of administration and all formulations. So basically, when we say the literature surveillance, we predominantly do this on the post-marketed products, and it is a part of the post-marketed surveillance as well. But we do perform this literature search in the clinical trial products as well, but not as frequently as we do for the post-marketing products. So when we talk about the frequency or how frequently we do these searches is for the post-marketing products, as I said, we do more of literature review surveillance for the post-marketed products, which is weekly, and for the clinical trial products, bi-weekly, and bi-weekly is very rare, but we do quarterly from the developmental international birth date that we have received, where that's a date on which the drug has been approved for the IND application. And that's about the frequency and how frequently we do this literature surveillance. And coming to the process of the literature surveillance, how the setup is done, how we are going to deal with the non-clinical trial, non-clinical citations and the clinical citations. We're going to discuss more about it. And so there usually be a set criteria and a search process. There will be approved search strategy and a schedule for this literature surveillance process. And based on that surveillance process, we are going to forward if there is any non-clinical citations. When I say non-clinical, it's about the animal studies. Those will go to the non-clinical safety teams. Those are the NCS for the review. And if there is any search results that have been identified as part of the clinical studies, so basically the human studies or post-marketed findings, that's going to be dealt by the drug safety team, and it will be forwarded if they find any of the ICSRs with, as you know about the validity criteria for an ICSR. If they find any citations that containing the ICSRs relevant to our company products, not about all other products, relevant to our company products, they will send them to the case processing team to process in the safety database. So basically how we process the adverse event forms, that way we similarly process these literature reviews as well. And while processing these, if they notice any kind of citations that contain potential new safety signals that you haven't identified in the clinical trials, and those signals will be sent to the safety committee teams. They will review those new safety signals and determine their justification and make their decision if they want to move forward with those safety findings, to do further workup on it to find if there is any signal. And based on the safety committee's decisions, we are going to include them in the literature review table sheets, tracking sheets, literature review tracking sheets. And those decisions will be recorded in those literature review tracking sheets. And we maintain all these, whatever the literature searches you have been done. When we do these literature searches, initially the literature review team is going to monitor, check these for the company compounds, and they're going to see the abstract first. And if they feel that they need the full article, they will obtain the request, and they will try to obtain the full article for that journal related to our company compound. And from there, they're going to do the search process, and all this will be how we are doing this literature search process. And are we obtaining the complete article? When we obtain this complete article, and how we are going to proceed with it? Is it related to the non-clinical citations, or is it related to the clinical safety team citations, if it has any ICSRs or no? So all the search criteria, search process, what is going on, everything will be recorded in the tracking sheet, and you will have clear idea about it when you look at the tracking sheets. So basically, all this literature review and literature surveillance is basically the responsibility of the safety team. We, as a pharmacovigilance from the drug safety side, the drug safety physician will set up this process. They will have an approved search criteria, like how we do the search criteria based on all the, as I said, based on all the names of the compounds, based on the active moiety or the active substance of the for the company compound, whatever the names have been used, whether it's been in the clinical trial or in the post-marketed, whatever the names we use. Let's say sometimes in the clinical trials, we use in the initial stages, like, okay, CT001, this product name is, and then we move to a little bit of modification with the compound, and we move to CT001P and then CT002P, whatever the names we are using throughout the life cycle of the product, we are going to do the search criteria. So we are going to perform this search strategy on the active compound, active ingredients of the compound, and whatever the verbatims that's been reflected with the therapeutic agents based on the mechanism of action of the compound, and inclusion of the compounds from the same drug class. When I say the same drug class, it's about if I have to say, it's like, let's say antidiuretics, all antidiuretics that belong to the same drug class, we are going to consider them antihypertensives or anticoagulants or NSAIDs. So we are going to consider all the active moiety compounds with the same drug class, and additional search criteria, if they need any kind of additional search strategies that needs to be added, uh, will be decided in conjunction with the project management team and the drug safety physician. So they're going to decide whether what search criteria it has to be. And as a drug safety associate or a pharmacovigilance specialist, it is out of our scope, and we don't perform any of these search strategies, or we do not set up any of these search strategies or criteria. But it's just for your awareness how you're going to do in the interview. If they ask like, what is your how you do this literature search and what is your process of search criteria, you can say like, based on all the active moiety substances for our company compound that's been used and throughout the life cycle of the product, and based on the mechanism of action, based on the drug class, we have a certain search criteria that's been set for our company. And basically, we usually companies don't do internally, because there is a lot of database search that needs to be performed, and a lot of articles that need to be obtained for those based on the search criteria. So we use the vendors. Basically, companies use the vendors. As I said, it's beyond the scope of drug safety. We, as a drug safety, only from the drug safety side, drug safety physicians will set up this strategy and the criteria. They will give it to the vendors, the third-party vendors, to do the search for us. Once the once the third-party vendor has completed their search, and once we give the criteria, they will perform their search and in the database. And once they have everything, they will give the results to us. So basically, from our company side, what will happen is the company is going to review what are the clinical citations are there. So if there is any clinical citations, they will look into it. And if there is a valid ICSR, if they think there is a valid ICSR, they will send it to the drug safety team to process it in the Argus database, how we do the individual case safety reports and the expedited reporting process. And if there is any non-clinical citations, that will obviously go to the transitional group, which I said as non-clinical safety team. So basically, when I say this transitional group, they are the ones that bring the drug from animal studies to the human studies or the clinical trials. So that's the reason why they are named as a transitional group, as they transition the product from animals to humans for the human clinical trials. And they are often called as non-clinical safety team as well. And why we don't perform these animal studies is we do not do any kind of animal study related safety reporting from our end. Those are really complicated things for us to understand as far as the chemical compound is concerned. So we do deal only with the clinical citations that's been received as an ICSRs. And when I say and talk about this, ICSRs and how we process it, the process is same. You're not going to change anything. The workflow is same, the regulations are same, how you do the literature search, everything is same. The only thing that may change with the case processing is the way how you write the narrative. Because this is not a how you received from the spontaneous report or a sponsored clinical trial report. It's not the same how you see, but the narrative process is like you have to mention few things like what is the journal name, when it was published. There are few things that you need to add, and it doesn't actually flow like how you write the narrative with all the past medical history and all those things. Whatever is been reported in the article or the journal you received, you're just going to sometimes copy paste it, and sometimes if it's like too much of information, you just have to pair it with all the relevant information that you can input in your narrative. That's where the difference will be. Other than that, all the process is going to be same. And for the literature reviews, we do not usually perform any kind of follow-up because there is no, it's just a journal that's been written by someone, and you have found it in the database, and we are not going to do any kind of follow-ups with them. That's a major difference that you see if you just to kind of give you guys that kind of awareness uh, about what makes a difference for a ICSR and a literature surveillance ICSR case. And these search will be performed on majorly and global reference databases are like PubMed, Medline, and Embase. That's a basic interview question that you will receive with the literature surveillance. The interview question will be, what are the databases that you search for your literature surveillance? You can say the major database that we search for this literature surveillance is a PubMed, Medline, and Embase. But of course, for the local post-marketed products, you do have to do local literature surveillance search. That should be that will be conducted based on the local regulations and the guidelines as applicable with the product, and as per the country and the local regulations and guidances. Is it clear so far?
Yes.
And one more thing that you receive when you talk about these ICSRs that you're getting from the literature search is usually you receive these in the literature search. Usually you will receive these ICSRs as in the form of demographic tables from the clinical citations. So let's say the major difference is in the adverse event report, you may get a case, or they may have like one or two cases, one or two patients, or let's say they may report like if the healthcare practitioner is reporting, they may report like, okay, two of my patients who received your drug had these adverse events. But in case of literature search, sometimes you will see like 15 patients has suffered after taking your drug, has suffered heart attack. How you read in general, like in the articles, when you search for some side effects for the acetaminophen or the drug you're taking, when you go into the Google and search for some product side effects, you will be able to see some articles based on PubMed, Medline, Embase. There will be some articles that you who are able to see without any subscription as well. When you search for this, basically how you see the literature articles, that's basically what you see in the literature surveillance as well. Like how they mention, okay, these many patients have took, these many patients were involved in the clinical trial, these many patients out of 100 have 20 have received placebo, 80 has received the trial product, and how you see all these things when you just in general Google about one side effect for a product. That is how basically this journals and articles is going to be, but in depth and in more detail, like they will report all the labs and any particular event details, what are the events. Sometimes they do mention, like 15 male patients have received, 15 female patients have received. So how you process these ICSRs depends on the identifiers. If you have like 15 patients with 15 identifiers, you can identify each individual patient with their identifiers. Let's say patient one with an initials of AJ has reported these adverse event. Patient 2 with an initials of SS have received these have reported these adverse event. If you have those kind of individual patient identifiers for all these 15 patients, you are literally going to copy paste these in the copy these the one same case into 14 more cases. You're just going to make one case and you're going to make copies of 14 more copies of this case and make as individual cases. And let's say in the same way, if you don't have any identifiers, they just reported 15 patients have suffered with a heart attack after taking this drug. And what we put in the Argus and how we process is we just make one report for this only one case, because we do not have any identifiers to identify individually as a single patient. As it says only 15 patients, we just normally process it as a blanket report, we usually call it. And we just mentioned about these 15 patients in the narrative, saying like, we have received a report of 15 patients experiencing this adverse event. So that's a major difference with the patient identifiers. If you get in the interview, like how you report the ICSRs, if you have like 15 patients suffered heart attack, then you have to ask them, like, does this 15 patients have the identifiers? Yes, if the 15 patients have identifiers, I will process them as individual cases. And if not, I will process them as a blanket report. And I just mention it in the narrative. That's how this process will be done. And as I said, the non-clinical safety team is going to review the non-clinical citations, and they are going to review the results with the drug safety team, because since we are not dealing with any kind of non-clinical trial or non-clinical citations, they are going to review with the drug safety team and escalate any kind of new signals that they have found. Like, while processing their animal studies, they haven't noticed an adverse event of myocardial infarction. But at this point of time, while doing this search, they have found a new safety signal of myocardial infarction. They're going to forward this to the safety committee for the review and their decision if they want to proceed further with that signal, and work upon that signal and make it into the aggregate reports. Or in the same way, the safety committee, as I said, they're going to make their decision based on the information they have. They do their analysis and thorough analysis of it for further evaluation if they need. If they determine that the citations contain any kind of potential new signals, and if they feel that this has to be going into aggregate reporting, or it as need further signal workup as far the signal detection is concerned, then those citations will go into the aggregate report, like DSURs for the clinical trial products, and periodic safety update reports, or a PBR, PSU, or PADers in those reports for the post-marketed products. And that's a process with the non-clinical citations and the clinical citations. And once you have all the reports, the safety committee will review, and that's how the safety committee will take up further action on it and will include in the aggregate reporting if required. And as I said, the case processing is same, how you do the intake of the case. Instead of saying it's a spontaneous case, you're going to say it's a literature review case. And the case processing remains same. You will have the reporters, you will do the safety data entry, the case will go through the quality check, the case will go through the MR review, and the case will go simultaneously with the QC, the QR review, and finally to the submissions to the health authorities. And how we do these submissions, whether as a blanket report or a single report, it depends on what the information you have received in the literature search during the literature search criteria. And after search process and performing these based on the search criteria and obtaining this information about the clinical citations and non-clinical citations, as I said, if they believe that there is a new safety signal that needs to be further followed up and further action needs to be taken, so the safety committee is going to do all those decisions based on this, and they're going to display their review results, as I said, through the literature review tracking sheet. They're going to upload based on this criteria. They will have this set of questions like, for example, how we have here, like, the yes/no questions. It's not like a bigger sentence questions, I would say, just the yes/no questions. It contains whether the article contains company compound, yes or no, whether it contains an ICSR, yes or no, whether the full article review is needed. As I said, if there is a full article review is required as per the safety committee's decision, that's when we pull out the full article, we request for the full article, and basically you have to go, if you are part of the team who has to go over the entire article, even if it's a 100-page article, you have to just review and give your analysis on it. But at this point of time, you are not going to do that. So they're going to mention if there is something that needs to be discussed with the safety committee, yes or no. They're going to mention if they need any further safety signal evaluation they have identified. If they have identified there is a further evaluation needs to be done, they will mention yes. And does this needs to be added to the DSU or yes or no. So basically that's how your tracking sheet is going to be. It may have additional questions based on your company requirements. It may not have as many, but these are some of the basic questions that a safety committee member will put in the tracker sheet. And apart from that, these are some of the guidelines for the literature surveillance. As I said, we follow the same guidelines how we follow for the ICSR reporting or the post-marketing products, or it's for the clinical trial products. It's basically on the ICH-E2F guidelines and the FDA 21 CFR 314 80 post-marketing surveillance guidelines, or the clinical trial guidelines, and the EMA module 6 guidelines for how we follow for the ICSR reports. And so these are all like, they will have their own, EMA has their own detailed guide regarding the literature surveillance process, how we do this literature surveillance, and how we enter this relevant information into the Pharmacovigilance website. So all these information are those, like, these are just the guidelines, but don't think that you have to remember all these things, FDA 21 CFR 21F and all those things. But out of all these guidelines, if someone in the interview asks you that what is your basis for the literature surveillance, you're just going to say ICH E2F guidelines, module 6 of EMA guidelines. So those are easy to remember, and that's enough for the interview purpose at this level. And if they go further and ask you about what is the process of literature surveillance, you can start by saying like based off of ICH E2F guidelines or module 6 of EMA guidelines, we follow this process. Whatever we have explained, you can explain them saying like, this is the process we follow for non-clinical citations, clinical citations, and if there is ICSR, they are going to give it to the safety team. We are going to process as the individual case safety report. If there is anything that needs further workup, it will go to the safety committee team. That's what you can say at this point of time. Nothing much about it. And do you guys have any questions?
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
Um, I'm not sure I really understand why is the literature search happening? Because you said if we find anything, we pass it on to the safety committee. Is the literature search happening so that just to know what has been reported out there? Is that the whole essence?
So the whole gist of it is you're just trying to obtain all the information because let's say you have a clinical trial product that's been marketed that's been released into the market. So
Okay.
it became a post-marketed product. So you have to do as per the EMA guidelines and the FDA guidelines, you have to do your search process to find any new findings that you may obtain. So these are all the active surveillance methods, like how you do for the pharmacovigilance. Based on the literature search, you will correct the literature search, and you will do the post-marketing studies and setting up the patient registries. You are trying to basically collect as much of information as possible to monitor the safety profile of the drug.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically it's the same way why we are doing the ICSR, the same way literature surveillance is also for the monitoring of the safety profile of the drug.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. So let me stop sharing this screen. Yes, is it clear?
Doctor, literature surveillance can be one case or multiple cases, right?
Yeah, inside that article, there can be as many cases. There can be 300 patient cases as well. We
Okay.
never know how many cases it's going to be, or they may just, in general, they can mention like, we have had this interview with doctor, and we have found out that doctor who have given this medication to 100 of patients, and out of 100, 80 have experienced myocardial infarction, and these below are the results, and how they mention in detail in the articles. They're going to state everything in the article.
Okay.
So one literature's article is not for only one patient. It is related to like as much of research they have done.
Yeah,
It
okay.
can be for many patients. Yeah.
Yeah. And doctor, if it's if the cases are related to each other, it can be an aggregate report, right?
You mean
Uh,
the cases related to each other means it's related to the company product.
Similar? Yeah, yeah.
I mean, so basically what we are doing through this literature search is when you consider those reports as a valid report is if you have your company compound, if you notice that they had adverse event with our company product, then we are going to consider those adverse event report as the valid. And as we do for the ICSRs, MR is going to review, the safety committee is going to review whether it's really related. If that's where I mentioned, like, if they feel it's related, then they do their work upon it as they do for the signal detection. And that's when it will go into, as they have found out that, yes, this is related to our, based on the product, based on the active substance. It is related to our active substance and they determine it's related, then it will go to the aggregate reporting.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I have a question, Doc.
Yes.
The blanket report, is that processed in Argus as well, or somebody else takes care of it?
Yes, when we talk about the clinical citations and the ICSRs, whether it's a blanket report, bulk reporting, whatever they call it, all these will be done in the Argus safety database. So if someone asks you how you report these adverse events to the health authorities, it's always through the Argus safety database. There is no way we are going to make a how you make the medical records like paper sheets or something. You're not going to make that. You're going to make it global in the global Argus safety database, and we are going to submit as we do for the ICSRs.
Okay, so, I mean, we haven't gone through that Argus tutorial yet, but I'm assuming, is there a
Yes, it's going to be,
Okay.
it's going to be there in the coming classes.
Okay, I thought it's only patient tab and, so.
Mhm.
it's such a-
Yeah, we are going to, you're going to see the complete Argus database and how we are going to do, we are going to process a case and show you how it will be.
Okay. And the non-clinical citations, I was
Mhm.
kind of lost. Could you please elaborate on that?
So when I say about the non-clinical citations, it's about the same way animal studies, how we do before the product comes into the human trials. It will be done on the animals first. So any kind of those information that they have reviewed in the literature articles, those will be going to the non-clinical safety team who deals with these animal studies and who perform the animal studies.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep. So I guess it's pretty clear, and if you want, you can go through this module one more time. As I said, it's not really that important for you when you're going into the job. You're not going to initially perform any of the literature review. As far as I have seen, they don't really involve anyone right away into the literature review process. You have to be aware of ICSRs and all those things. Once you have established in the company, they will give you certain responsibilities, not it's never going to be overall on you. You may be just being a part of it. So for the interview purpose, whatever we have reviewed, just have that basic knowledge about it, you are good to go. All right, if you guys don't have any questions, we'll meet on Thursday with another topic. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.